Greetings, everyone. Today I'd like to pay tribute to the French philosopher Merleau-Ponty, a French thinker I've encountered at various times in my own pursuit of philosophy, and on each occasion I've been deeply inspired by his writings and his philosophical method, a method of free inquiry and unprejudiced thinking that I feel places him in that tradition that began with Socrates and was epitomized so well by Michel de Montaigne in his essays. So I'd like to situate Merleau-Ponty as coming out of that tradition. So I'll share with you this essay entitled Reading Merleau-Ponty. The 20th century French thinker Maurice Merleau-Ponty is a philosopher I'm continually learning from. Each occasion I've had the pleasure of reading selected essays or pieces from his major work, The Phenomenology of Perception, I instantly find myself confiding in his words. His words are wisdom, as Socrates or Montaigne before him, for he displays integrity and genius perfectly proportionate, proving he is unafraid of confessing his private thoughts or of questioning and interrogating himself under the mark of magnificent prose. Philosophers are guilty of having written dull and tedious prose, often resulting in a missed opportunity to captivate or to edify their readers. This is not the case with Merleau-Ponty. His scope of interests, ranging from science to poetry, politics to the world of painting, are as well written as they are detailed. I am as captivated, for instance, by his reflections on the politics of Machiavelli as I am captivated by his interpretations of Cézanne's life and paintings. These great attributes of Merleau-Ponty must be the result of his cosmopolitan range of interests, which I feel justly earn him the title as a lover of wisdom. I would like to provide 3 examples from Merleau-Ponty's works which I feel exhibit his love of wisdom and how well versed he was in matters of political theory, philosophy, as well as the interpretations of art. First, I will begin with his reflections on Machiavelli. In Merleau-Ponty's essay, A Note on Machiavelli, he asserted the following, quote, "What he, Machiavelli, is reproached for is the idea that history is a struggle and politics a relationship to men rather than principles. Yet is anything more certain? Has not history shown even more clearly after Machiavelli than before him that principles commit us to nothing and that they may be adapted to any end?" End quote. Merleau-Ponty's interpretation of Machiavelli, I feel, brings to light the merit of Machiavellian thinking, to have made transparent all the machinations behind the scenes of leadership, and to have disclosed the true intentions of men in positions of political power. For this very reason, Machiavelli has always been accused by his detractors as revealing to the common man all the secrets to leading nations and to controlling the state, as if said methods of ruling were to remain hidden forever. Tragic though it may be, great principles guide tyrants as readily as great principles guide tyrants as readily as philosopher kings, and may be employed to the end of destroying whole nations. This is what I believe Merleau-Ponty has demonstrated by his emphasis on Machiavelli, showing that utility is more essential to politics than principles. Next, I'd like to look at Cézanne and the occasion when writing on the French painter Cézanne. In his masterful essay, Cézanne's Doubt, Merleau-Ponty had the pleasure of paying tribute to one of the pivotal influences in his own career as a thinker. To one who reads various selections from Merleau-Ponty's complete works, they are likely to find numerous references to Cézanne's paintings. This love of Cézanne came to fruition early on in Merleau-Ponty's life, and played a significant role in his philosophical inquiries. In a select passage from Cézanne's Doubt, Merleau-Ponty lays emphasis on a central problem that arises in all interpretations of works of art, philosophy, and literature, namely, how much of the artist or the author's biography should play a role in forming our interpretation of any given work. To respond to this question of interpretation, Merleau-Ponty stated the following, quote, "It is nonetheless possible that Cézanne conceived a form of art which, while occasioned by his nervous condition, is valid for everyone. Left to himself, he was able to look at nature as only a human being can. The meaning of his work cannot be determined from his life." End quote. In the case of Cézanne, Merleau-Ponty has unequivocally declared no. His artwork should not be judged on the basis of his private life or his personality. Indeed, scrutinizing Cézanne's reclusive nature, his fear of death, or his own disbelief in the grandeur of his painting technique will only provide inconclusive results as to the nature of his artistic merits. In fact, Merleau-Ponty illustrates in this same essay the unfortunate attention paid to Cézanne's character defects by Cézanne's close friend, the famed French novelist Émile Zola. Zola's harsh rebuke of Cézanne's private life mean little to posterity, now, which has already decided on the fate of Cézanne. He is revered as an innovative genius of whom would serve as a gift to many of his successors in the world of painting, one being Marcel Duchamp. Now, the question of the right criterion of judgment as to when and where we should have recourse to the author's biography remains an open dispute. I say let the less charitable interpreters draw a clear line and fall where they may. The thinker, in the tradition of Socrates and Merleau-Ponty, will want to search for a more nuanced approach. I would claim the more nuanced approaches were essential for Merleau-Ponty. I ask, can anyone think with integrity without doing so? As a philosopher, he keenly considered his topic and rightfully weighed the argument, covering enough ground for readers to judge and assemble the content as she or he sees fit. For instance, in his brilliant essay on Montaigne, entitled Reading Montaigne, he writes, quote, "We think we have said all there is to say about him when we say he is a skeptic, that is, that he questions himself and does not answer, refusing even to admit that he knows nothing, and holding himself to the famous, 'What do I know?' None of this takes us very far." End quote. Merleau-Ponty pays tribute to the master Montaigne through the genius of Montaigne himself, by cautioning us against hasty interpretations. Is this not the mark of a true philosopher? Reminding us of the true nature of inquiry, to question the common consensus of any established judgment? It is at such a moment that we are seeking to discover what is well established from what can be easily toppled. Merleau-Ponty, I feel, sustained a philosophical method of free inquiry throughout his life, by not pledging allegiance to any political party. His method of analyzing each position led many of his contemporaries to branding him as a petty idealist or as a skeptic in his own right. He shares a kinship with Socrates and Montaigne in this regard. He assumed the right to philosophize freely, and the false reproaches of his contemporaries naturally followed. A philosopher of such caliber stands open to threats and allegations. He welcomes the scorn of his contemporaries even, as to be doubly certain he has not fallen victim to dogmatism of any kind. What would be the test to determine if a philosopher is not merely a talking head for a political party or a misanthrope of his age? To see how she or he responds to their opponents and how she or he evaluates their viewpoints. If the philosopher is capable of such charity, as well as a deep analysis of ideas, they will be all the more capable as a thinker. And this concludes my essay on Merleau-Ponty. I hope to be reading more of his works in the coming years. Thank you for listening.